Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Chief here, the professional problem solver, coming to you live for another episode of The Overcomers. Today, we have a very special guest, NFL professional, Super Bowl winner, my friend Setema Gali. He was also a mortgage broker after his NFL career, real estate investor, hard money lender, and speaker on stages around the country. Probably one of the best speakers I've seen live. The reason why I think Setema is a great speaker is because he is so genuine. He speaks from the heart. I think there are two types of speakers that practice their presentation very well, and speakers that just simply share their heart with their audience. So Setema is definitely the second type. He's an accomplished musician as well, has so many different talents, and he performs and leads by example. Under the Game Changers, there is a mastermind he called the Circle that is designed to lead people to become the game changer they were born to be. So, without further ado, I'd like to introduce you to my dear friend Setema Gali Jr. Welcome, Setema.
Velko, thank you. I'm so honored, and it's such a privilege and a blessing to be here with you and your listeners. So thank you so much for having me. I'm very grateful.
Well, I'm also grateful that you're here. And one of the things that kind of stuck with me the first time, I've seen you a couple times on the stage, but one of the things that really stuck with me was stop lying. And I've been saying that since then. Not just stop lying to other people, which means honesty, but stop lying to yourself, which means maturity. So, by tradition, we start with a very unique question. I think that greatness is passed on. There's a ripple effect. So, if you could please share some cool details about your grandparents on both sides, and maybe some good examples, some good principles that were passed on from your grandparents on both sides, or some warnings, maybe some things that you've noticed and you were like, that's not how you do life. So,
Uh,
please share with us on your father's side and on your mother's side. What do you remember from your grandparents?
my grandmother, my father's mother, she, born and raised in Samoa, she was a worker. Like she just worked hard and didn't speak any English. So she visited us multiple times. The thing I remember from her, she was a worker. Like she just worked. She never complained. She would like it was nonstop working, and she would walk everywhere. She'd walk miles, and we're like, "Oh, we'll take you, Grandma." She's like, "Nope." She was used to walking in Samoa. You just walk,
Hmm.
walk miles and miles to the store. And like we try to get her to get in the car. She's like, "Eleai faftai," which is no thank you. Eleai faftai, eleai. Excuse me. So she was a worker, and she had the courage to, and tell. She shared some stories about my dad to leave a bad situation. My grandparents on my mom's side, they had the courage to leave the islands and to go to Hawaii, where my mom was able to go to high school, graduate, and of course now I was born and raised in the States. They were all about family. And then my parents were divorced. My grandparents on my stepmom's side, they were he lived till he was 100 years old, and his whole thing was like my grandma on my dad's side, which was like work will always reward you. You gotta have a work ethic. Like you got to be able to work. It doesn't matter what level you're at. It doesn't matter the money in your bank account. It doesn't matter how fit. Having a work ethic, having the ability to just know how to what we call FIO, figure it out.
Hmm.
Like you got to figure it out. And all my grandparents, I never ever saw them discouraged. I think just the way they grew up, like they grew up in a time where they there wasn't like mental health. It was suck it up, do the work, do my shirt, do what's required. And I love the sacrifices that they made for my parents, who obviously made them for me.
Yeah, that's awesome. And tell me a little bit about your parents.
Oh
You
man,
mentioned they're divorced.
my parents are. I love my parents, man. They work so hard. They sacrifice so much. I still want to make them proud of me. They've always worked hard. They didn't have the opportunities that we did. So I make a lot of money not working physical labor, but my parents worked job, swing shift, graveyard shift, day shift. My mom has always worked. She's 70, 72, and she's still working. My dad just barely retired. He's in his late 70s. And I'm just so grateful that they have the courage to come across the ocean, to come to this country, and to put me through every kind of opportunity that I've had. And they've supported me, and they just encouraged me. They just said, go get it. You want something? They never told me that that's impossible, because I got big dreams, man. So I love my parents. Even my parents were divorced and remarried. I have four parents, right? And I never call them my stepmom or my stepdad. They're just my parents, and they were heaven sent. They were heaven sent, and I love them. Like, oh, I just you say, tell me about your parents, and I'm like, oh man, start crying, because they just sacrificed so much for me, man, so much, and I want to make them proud. I want to make them proud.
That's so beautiful, brother, and God loves you for that. And the way they loved you, I can definitely see it with your kids. You're passing on the same intensity. You love them so much, your boys, and it's incredible when you have such a deep respect and love for your parents. And you're right, like with each generation, especially one thing that I see with men, if we put 1,000 men in the same room, 990 of them have a very complicated relationship with their dad. And usually that's how orphan mindset is passed on, with just this complicated relationship. And every time when I ask some of those men, because I went through that too, I went through blaming my dad. And I'm like, uh, recently have I've been forgiving him, and recently just went to a whole different level of just loving him so unconditionally, because they had it so much worse than we do. We what we call hard work, they'll be laughing at that.
Yeah, agree.
What we
Agreed.
call hard work, call the leads, hard work. So and they went through so much more sacrifice to get us. It's just so beautiful going through the generations and seeing how each generation is giving their best for the next generation. And it's beautiful. One day maybe you're gonna write a movie about the grandparents and your parents and what they went through, because
Maybe.
I think that will be cool, crossing the ocean. That would be awesome. And like my dad, I realized that my dad had never showed weakness. He never blamed anyone. He never complained ever again, ever. And he never used any excuses. So maybe he's not the best dad in the world, but those three things now are the hardest thing to avoid in today's world: to avoid complaining, to avoid excuses, to avoid victim mindset. Is just so popular. It's everywhere. The weakness is being spread out everywhere. So I'm like, Dad, I love you because you demonstrated those qualities that every man, every father must have, every husband. So what is your first conscious moment? When do you remember that you're like the first moment where you realize you're alive?
Man, I'd say we were I was probably 3 or 4 years old. Some
Yeah.
people way back, but I we were moving from Missouri to Utah. I just remember like getting in this huge U-Haul truck and getting in the station wagon. We never wore seatbelts back then. Nobody wore seatbelts, not like today.
Yeah.
And we had blankets on the station wagon, and we loaded a car up, and we are making this trip from Missouri to Utah. I remember that trip, and I remember arriving in Utah. I remember getting into our apartment, and that's when I can start to remember like these early recollections of life.
Mm. And tell me a little bit about your high school experience. Did you have to switch schools, or
Oh
you?
man, so I went to 5 elementary schools, 3 junior highs, and 1 high school. Like we moved around a lot. My parents never owned a home until way later in life. So 5 elementaries because we moved, 3 junior highs because the divorce and we moved.
Hmm.
And I went to 1 high school, and seventh and eighth grade middle school for Setema. A lot of people like. First of all, I hated football. I hated football. I wasn't very good. I had no confidence. My self esteem was very low. I couldn't look at girls in the eyes. I didn't have the confidence and the self concept that like I was in charge of that.
Look him in the nose. That's a little trick. If you look them in the nose, they can't tell the difference.
I couldn't even do that. And I moved from that middle school to ninth grade, which was still junior high in Orem, and something happened to me. Like
Mm.
my confidence, I started to read scriptures. I started to pray every day, and there was just this new group of friends, and I had grown like 3 or 4 inches,
Mm.
and I was pretty good at football by this time, my third year. So my confidence came from starting to develop. Like, who is Setema? Setema's a son of God. Setema's in charge of his life. Setema is whoever Setema wants to be. And my high school days were like, I went for it, man. I was in student council, a cappella, football, basketball, track. I did it all, man. I was like, I
Mhm.
want zero regrets leaving high school. And I loved my high school days.
Yeah, I mean, it's such a blessing that you got saved at such an early age, and I got saved in my 30s, early 30s. So I had to fall for every trap in the world, and I know that you are a good pastor in your house and you lead your kids. You're also taking them through a similar experience of moving around, uh, having different high schools, different schools. My daughter um, comes from a previous relationship, and we kind of moved her. We're in the same state, but she moved few schools, and at some point, she was just telling me, "Dad, I just want to be grounded. I just want to have a community. As soon as I find some friends, and you keep moving me." Do you have the same thing with your kids? At least you can relate to that because you have experience with that. But
Now,
is it hard for them to move?
the moves have been tough for them from California to Florida, then Florida to here. But this move here was great because my boys, they're very social. Two of my three boys are
Mm.
very, one is pretty chill, but they've done a really good job as far as adjusting and adapting. And like they're in it. And I just tell them, look, you're gonna look back at these days of moving. Like, so here's a good example. Excuse me. My wife grew up in two homes, and she really only knows one home. I went to again, you five, six, seven, eight, nine, like 12. The longest home I ever lived in was when I was in Southern California for 6 years. That was it. That's
Mm.
the longest home I've ever been in. So I don't, to her this is challenging, but for me the change is like, man, it makes you better if you can
Yeah,
adapt.
yeah. I think it's an unfair advantage for them. One day, just they're gonna start relationships better, easier, faster, communication skills. They've been through that already, so I think eventually it will work out for them.
Yep.
What's your first love?
My first love, oh
Mhm.
gosh. Well, I did have a girlfriend in kindergarten. No, man. Like, man, I gotta tell you, I love easy. Like, I love big. So I love people. Like, I'll tell people, like, now I love you, man. Like, because that's September. That's who I am. One of the things that I say daily is everyone loves September, and I love everyone, and
Mm.
that's how I live. So, as far as first love, God, I don't know if I can pinpoint that, but I had a lot of just people that I loved early on. Like, just was grateful for uh, great friends who were females, and then I didn't get married until I was 29. in my culture, that's a little late, right? That's late. But I wanted to make sure that if I married, I was going to do this one time.
Hmm.
One time. I was going to make sure it was right. My parents got divorced and I hated it. I hated the divorce. It hurt me, it hurt us. So I made sure that whoever I was going to marry, I was like, I'm in this for the long haul.
Yeah, me too. I didn't have. I just got married 2 years ago for first time. Um,
How old are you,
but
Velko?
I'm 39, so that's way late. But like I said, I had to go through the rules of the world. So that's just like you. I wanted to marry one woman, be faithful to her, and I wanted to make sure she's the real deal. It's just with lack of proper leadership, you kind of got to figure things out on your own.
Yeah.
And when you're chasing different things in life, sometimes the truth comes a little bit later.
Sometimes we're
But
not
it,
ready. Sometimes we're just like, I don't know if I want to hear that, so I'm going to ignore that. And for me, grateful I had good parents, good leaders, good coaches, good church leaders, good community people to help me guide me. So I feel fortunate and blessed.
this is so important, and I think both ends are good. You know, sometimes kids that grow up in like a very good community, they always think about, I wonder what's in this door, and they're like thinking, maybe what if, and kids that come from the world and they've been through all the doors and they know what hell looks like, they're like, I'm never going back. So they fall in love with God so passionately, so deeply that it's kind of like a very easy switch. They get it. I've seen a lot of both. There's pros and cons with both. People that grew up with good leadership and people that had to do it, had to find their own way with God through hardship. In both cases, there are some pros and cons. But do I want to lead my son and my daughter close to God? Absolutely. I want to give her the best environment possible. So tell me, if you can rate your biggest challenges, the dungeon, the moments where you were hopeless and you were crying not from joy or gratitude, but desperation. What are those three moments, if you have to rate them by intensity, from the worst, number one, through a little bit milder, but still very challenging, and then number three?
It's crazy. So I'm going to start with one in 2018. 2018, we are doing an event in Dallas, and I've been in business now for like 4.5 years, almost 5 years, and like we hired this firm to help us fill the event. And you hire plenty of people, and you realize most of them don't know what the heck they're doing. But we paid these guys. We're in, $100,000 for this event. The hotel, the room block, the sound system, the food, the beverage. Excuse me. And we couldn't do it. Like the room was supposed to have like 500 people, and on opening morning there were like 40 people in the room. We
Hmm.
were short on ticket sales, and I forget this. I was like, the hotel came to me and said, again, I look at it now, I'm like, oh, that's so silly. But they're like, you need to pay us before you can do this event. I'm like, I need to close the deals to do the event. And the sound is there. He's 60 grand. These guys, the hotel's like, and again, it wasn't that much money compared to now. But back then it was like, oh man, I don't have this because trying to grow a business. So they're like, you need to pay us. And I didn't have it. And I'm like, what do I do? And I told my assistant, go find a Holiday Inn. We're going to tell everyone to go to the Holiday Inn. We'll just forget this hotel. Let's just go over there. It's cheaper. And thankfully, I called like five people. I said, hey, I need money. And four of the five said no. One of the fifth guy who said yes chewed me out, yelled at me. He's my friend. And then he said, and I just paid it. I put it on my credit card to go be you. I paid him back. The event was good. That was stressful because I could see that event like happening like for months. Like, oh, we're gonna be upside down. It's not gonna work.
Mm.
That was stressful. I mean, that was, you talk about like wanting to jump off a building. I felt it.
Mm.
I was like,
You pay them 100 grand up front?
no, like, it was like 40 to the hotel, but we had put another deposit of 20. The sound guy needed 60, so we had paid him like 40, had owed him 20. The room block we were on the hook for. I mean, it was just, we just hit a cash flow problem.
Yeah.
And it was bad. Like, I was rotating credit cards. I'm maxed out. I'm like, oh my gosh, like, what the heck am I going to do? That was the first one. But I'd say the next most intense one that goes back to 2008. 2008, right? The recession,
Mm-hmm.
everything. We get kicked out of our home. We lose the cars. 2009.
You were in real estate then, right?
Real mortgages, yeah. And you talk about like just absolute obliteration, devastation. Like, we have the 6,000 square foot home we built. I'm building an 8,000 square foot home that I'm already like, of my own money, probably $500,000 into. I've got $500,000 worth of cars in my garage. And we start losing all my properties in Florida and Arizona, Hawaii, Atlanta. Like, nothing was working. Got defrauded money. That was like, I wasn't ready. And then, 2009, I sell my Super Bowl ring just to get some money. 2010, I file a bankruptcy. You want to talk about depression? I was so depressed. I was, again, considering like, dude, I should just turn the cars on in the garage. No wonder why people take their lives. I'm like, holy smoke. Like,
Man.
no wonder why people could,
Listen.
like, right? I'm like, wow, I'm having these thoughts right now. I was like, oh my gosh. And that was like 4 years. 4 years. Just, I could not produce. Very tough, very just depressing. Like, it's like, man, God, where are you? Like, what did I do? What did I do? Like, how did I get here? Like, wow, like, where are you? That was a 4 years of just darkness, man. Like, I mean, nothing worked. I sold the Super Bowl ring. We filed the bankruptcy.
Did you buy it back?
No, not yet. He wants an absurd amount, and it's like, I could literally go get it right now, but then I'm like, but then I take my cash, and I'm like, I like to hold on to my cash. So the time is not yet. Soon.
Yeah.
Get it soon. I'll
He'll,
get it.
he'll call you one day. You'll be like, hey, you want that ring?
Let's see it. Yeah, and like, my boys have never even seen the Super Bowl ring. They weren't alive, but when I sold it, they were babies. And then I think just recently, in the last 4 months, it was a tough time. I had like 15, 16 people in my company, and I let most of them go. We recalibrated the business. We shifted. We pivoted. Parted ways with my business partner. It's tough, man, because I love these people very, very much. But you got to have the courage to do what you know is right. You have to have the courage to pivot and to move up and to level up. And if you don't, you'll go down. So that was a tough one. But what I've learned through all these challenges and trials, Velko, is like, it makes you stronger. It just makes you stronger.
Yeah.
And you got to be humble, and you got to be open, and you got to be willing to be just forged in the fire. And I'm grateful that I didn't give up or quit in those deep, dark moments, man.
I'm so glad that you didn't give up, brother, that you didn't shoot your brains out. What do you think? What did you, now that you're looking back, what do you think was the biggest reason for when you were asking the question, why me? Why? What did I do? How did I get here? What do you think is the biggest reason you got there?
Oh, like how I ended up in the situation?
Yeah.
Oh, it's easy. I'd say, like, I made choices. Excuse me. Excuse me, I got this cough, man. I made choices, brother, that you know that put me there. Like I made choices. I wasn't ready. I wasn't prepared. I thought I was better than I was. I over leveraged. Like I could go through 12 things. Like I wasn't as good and as skilled as I thought back in 2008. I wasn't.
Hmm.
Even when COVID hit, I was like, oh, this is nothing. I wasn't worried for a second because I was like, I've already lost everything. Like,
Because
like
like
we ain't losing. I've been here before. I've been here. I know what it's like. Like so, everyone in my coaching groups was panicking, and I would go on twice a week live. I'd coach them up, and I just tell them, hey, this is gonna pass. I said, if there was ever a time to become better, it is now. It
yeah.
is now. Like if there was ever a time where you should be hungry, it's while everyone else is sitting back doing nothing. But the Velcro just I chose made some poor choices. I wasn't ready, and I accept that. Like I was like I made bad business decisions. Hurt me.
The way you rate the challenges, like the first one, I think that it was just lack of experience. It wasn't 100% your fault. The second one, all the things that you mentioned, and the third one is just maturity. It's just even though it's a sad moment, it's the right decision, and it's okay to be sad making the right decision and be sad temporarily, then be doomed for the rest of your life for not having the cojones to pull the trigger, and do what's right for you and your family. So there is a growth in your challenges. There is a big growth. We have a picture together. We have few pictures together, and every time I show the pictures, people are like, "Oh, this is the Rock," and I hate that comparison. But I'm sure you've heard it before.
I hear it
And
thousand, thousand times a year, man.
I know. And the Rock had a dream to become a football player. You made it. You got his dream. You got the Super Bowl ring. So tell me a little bit about how did you get into the NFL? This is like such a small, tiny chance for all the kids that are good at playing football, all the kids from high schools and colleges around. It's such a tough place to be.
Yeah.
So how did you make it? You played in the Patriots?
So I was at Brigham Young University. It's where I did my college ball. I was a captain. I was all conference. I was the poster boy. I was the guy. And I had this fifth shoulder surgery. So I had 5 shoulder surgeries at BYU. And I remember I was like, man, should I go to the NFL? And there was this agent, happened to be Tom Brady's agent. They
Mm,
come and they say, hey, you're a great player. You're the kind of player we like: high character, high morals, high values, and you can play. So I work out. They get me signed on. Um, and I have these 3 workouts with the Patriots, 49ers, and Eagles. Well, I want to go to the 49ers. They're like, we'll sign you now. And the Patriots are like, we're going to sign you now. And I got a decision to make. And here's the great piece. I prepare myself. The opportunity comes. 2 teams want to sign me. And I'm going to go to the 49ers. But man, the voice inside of me is like, you're supposed to go to the Patriots. I'm like, I don't want to go to the Patriots. I want to go to the Niners. And the voice inside me is like, God is like, you're going to the Patriots.
mm,
So I choose the Patriots. We go up there in my rookie year. And dude, it's hard to get to the NFL. It is such hard work. It is tough. We kept winning and winning and winning and winning. It was an amazing year. And like we won the Super Bowl that first year, my rookie year. God, you talk about just awesome experience, great times, like so like grown men crying. Like these kids don't understand how tough it is to get to the NFL, how tough it is to win in the playoffs, and how tough it is to win a dang Super Bowl.
yeah,
But we're at the Super Bowl, and we're just like grown men crying.
yeah.
One, we're just like bawling, and I'm just like, thank you, Lord.
You,
Thank you. It
you
was
play with Tom Brady?
He was my teammate. He's a great person, great human being.
And who was your coach when you won the Super Bowl?
Belichick, Bill Belichick.
Belichick. He's not politically correct during the half time, right? He's a tough guy.
Hey, so I'm at BYU. You got to understand, BYU, they don't really cuss, right? They're not. You don't cuss. I get to England, and on the first day, it's like the F word is like 300 times. I'm like, whoa, like holy smoke. I'm like, it's like your effing job. Get that mother effer. F him, F them, do your F. I was just like, whoa. By day 3, I'm like, okay, just another word. But it was funny, man.
Yeah. Sometimes in business, when I do consulting and coaching, I some kids or some people come and be like, This person disrespected me," and I'm like, "Do you think Belichick is politically correct in the halftime? Do you think he's trying to not hurt anyone's feelings?" Like these guys are getting paid millions of dollars to play, and they take it. So in a heated battle, sometimes you're gonna say some things that sting.
And that's I would prefer it that way. That was one thing Belichick was really good at. Tell you the truth.
Yeah.
Just tell you the truth. He just tell you the facts, the truth, and the reality of if you're doing your job or not. And I was grateful. I learned more about football up there than I had in the first, 22 years of my life.
So you had 5 surgeries before you start playing professional,
Yep.
and you were so that's tough. Do you still have any pain or?
And I'm the strongest I've ever been in my life right now. I'm 40, almost 48 years old. I'm the strongest I've ever been.
That's awesome, brother. God
Strong,
bless you.
got muscle. I don't have any anabolics in my body. This is just like
The
lifting.
Rock does,
Oh,
the
I
Rock.
know he does. I know he does.
He's trying to make it sound like all you gotta do is wake up at 4:30 in the morning. He's not
No,
sharing about all the growth
it's
hormone.
funny how they don't know. It's like a hush hush thing. If you're on it, like if I ever get on it and someone asks me, I'll be like, yeah, this is what I'm taking. I mean, look, Velcro right now, I'm on TRT, right? Testosterone replacement therapy. I do TRT. I started that about 4 years ago. It's been good for my body. It's been really good for me, for my health, my energy. But other than that, man, I'm the strongest I've ever been. And I love the gym. I love working out. I love hikes. I love outdoors. Like I love the sun. I love being healthy, man.
Yeah, that's awesome, bro. You're a great example. I was just watching the podcast with PBD and Charles Sonnen, and he was saying things about LeBron and The Rock. He was like, "We have the same drug dealer. That's how I know what they take." And it's performance enhancing drugs. They're legal. They can just come out and tell the people that the reason why I'm so big, it's anabolics. It's not because I wake up at 4:30. It's not the pancakes.
And like I'm getting ready to do a bodybuilding show, and the guy that's training me, he's like, it just depends on the pharmaceuticals you want to put in your body.
Right.
And I'm like, what are we talking about here? He's like, well, just have a conversation on the phone about it. I'm like, wow. Of course, it's like I know now. I can look at a guy and be like, he's on something. He's on something. He like anyone who looks like anything is on something.
Yeah.
Like if my boys are like, my friends say you're on steroids. I'm like, well, I'm almost 50. I've been lifting since I was 15, and if I take my shirt off, you'll see I don't have the cut and the definition. I'm big. You want to be cut and ripped and jacked like Thor in his movie? Like, dude, you're all those Hollywood guys. They just don't want to talk about it.
Right, right. And they need to because it's almost like the hot girls with the filters on Instagram that are ruining young girls' life. They raise the standard so high.
Well, that's why I tell all the women that I know today, quit filtering your pictures, because the worst thing that happens is they meet you in real life and they're like, I remember we went to an event together and I saw some ladies there, like Setema. I'm like, hey, and I had no idea who it was, and I had to talk to them for about a minute, and I'm like, these are my friends on social. They look 15 years older. wrinkles, and there's nothing wrong with that. But if you show like a perfect face online, and
Yeah.
then you in person, and you're not that, their immediate impression is, oh. I love showing my blemishes. I don't filter my pictures. I love showing more wrinkles. And when people meet me in real life, they're like, dude, you look amazing. Or like, you're better in real life than you are on video. I'm
Yeah.
like, they should be. That's how it's supposed to be. You get all these Instagram influencers, they chop up their videos, they got all the subtitles. Then you meet them in real life and they can't even talk to you. It's like, get out of here. Get out of here, man.
So what's your workout routine? Do you work out in the morning? Do you work out at night?
Yep,
What's your daily routine if you can control it on a perfect day?
it's crazy. I've worked out in the morning, either 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock or 6:30 in the morning for the last like 10 years. And I've lifted 6 days a week. And I recently just hired a guy who's helping me, and I used his RP app. It's called RP Strength. These are scientists, and they're like, Setema, you've been overtraining. You've been overtraining. So I use their app. It's called the RP Strength app. It's like 200 or 300 bucks a year, and it is so good.
Mm.
I actually train less now, and I'm training for hypertrophy. So like I feel better, and I'm cleaning up my eating. You can see these juices. I got these juices over here. I'm doing like kind of a juice thing today because I was like, man, I don't feel so. I better. So I got all these juice bottles over here in my car. Um, but I work out 6 days a week. About 60 to 75 minutes, and bro, I love it, man. The gym is a very serene, solitary place for me. It's a very holy place. I know some people think that's blasphemous, but man, I go to church for spirituality. I go to the gym for physicality, but there's spirituality as well for me there.
Yeah, it's you're in the zone.
I love it. I love the gym, man. I love building my muscles, my health, my legs, my strength. And I'm doing it to show my wife and my kids and show other Polynesians and show my clients. Your body is the mechanism. Your body's the weapon, the temple, the vessel. It is the thing that allows you to dream and feel and execute. You got to take care of it.
Yeah, I agree. What is your moment if you can have access to the DeLorean and you can go to any point of your past and you could either edit the moment like Michael J. Fox used to do it, or just observe it one more time? What is one moment in your life that you would change and potentially change the outcome of your life, or
There is one
observe?
moment. There's one moment I would go back and change, and it's a very personal moment. I won't share, but there's one thing I would change, Velko. I made some poor decisions, and I did it because I was afraid of what people would think about me. And if I could go back, I would change this moment. It's like 20 years ago, literally 20 years ago. I would go back and change that, and that would it would just make me a better person today. So there's one regret that I have that I feel like you know, I believe in God and Jesus and the atonement. But that's the one thing. If I could go back and tell myself, don't do this thing, Tim. Like, just follow through with your commitments and handle business. And that's what I would do. One moment.
Good. What if that moment changes what you have today? If you didn't do that, you know how God uses everything bad for good? Maybe he wants you to maybe there's just a lesson to extract which you have done. You know that was wrong. Maybe there's a purpose for that moment.
Maybe, but I would be willing to go change it if I could.
Even if it
If I,
changes the today's circumstances?
I would.
Okay. Must be deep. What
And,
is the
and I wouldn't even know because I'd have to go change it. And then, like Marty, come back to my present and be like, what the heck?
what the hell? Who is this girl?
Yeah.
Where are my kids? I have 3 daughters now?
I, I know. Then I'll be like, let me go back in first.
Yeah. Well, that's what usually happened in the movie. That's what they were like, "Ooh, that's not for the better."
Yeah.
Um, but besides the Bible, what book had the most significant impact on your life?
Hold on, real quick. I'm gonna go.
Oh,
Um,
it's raining.
yeah, I'm gonna go get under the. Give me a second
Okay,
here while I go get
no
under some
worries.
covering so it's not so loud. Give me just a sec here. Give me some cover.
Is that a Wrangler or a Bronco?
Bronco.
Is it
It's my
white?
it's my son's Bronco, but you know,
Is it white?
it's not. It is gray. It's a Badlands gray one. Excuse me, I got this cough. But what was the question you were asking?
What is the book that had the most significant impact on your life
Ah,
besides the Bible?
so there's the Bible, and then in my religion, there's a book called the Book of Mormon. That's
Hmm.
another volume of our scripture. So if we put that in with the Bible, I would say Book of Mormon. Book of Mormon changed my world. And then if I take the scriptures and put that to the side and say, okay, we know those changed my life. The first book that really rocked my world, Stephen Covey, Seven Habits of Highly Effective People. That one changed everything. That was like, I was 19 years old. I was a missionary, and my mission president gives me the book. He's like, check this out. I open it, and he's talking about paradigms and perspectives and habits. And I'm like, wow, like that book blew me out of the water, man. Blew me out of the water.
Which one of the seven habits was the easiest for you to pick up?
Ooh. You know, begin with the end in mind. I've always been a goal setter. Be proactive. I love just like I'm in charge.
Hmm.
Seek first to understand. I'm trying to do that one, obviously, but again, like be proactive. Begin with the end in mind. Think win-win. I know what is habit three. Put first things first, then think win-win. Seek first to understand, synergize, and then sharpen the saw. Like that book changed my world, and so begin with the end in mind was like I know what I want, and that impacted how I behaved. Like I wasn't going to do drugs. I wasn't going to go do alcohol. I wasn't going to do a lot of these things that the kids were doing because I knew what I wanted,
Yeah,
and I wanted to be successful and happy, connected to God.
that's awesome, brother. You mentioned that you are the strongest you've ever been. So, do you feel older or younger than your age?
I feel a lot younger than my age. Like I tell people I'm almost 50, and they're like, "What?" I go, I drink a lot of smoothies, try to get good rest, but I also think just the genes, Samoan genes, right? People of color, our skin, like most people of color, we age a little bit better,
Mm.
right? Just the wrinkles. I mean, I've never done Botox. I do put some, I do put some lotion. Okay, I'm gonna do this thing. I'm gonna absolutely really good, man.
All right. We lost you for a second there, but we're glad you're back. So, you really impacted me when you were saying when you were sharing your story and you said stop lying. Like I started the podcast, stop lying to yourself. And sometimes we like that's what I teach my students and my clients. If you think you're a 5 in your mind and you're actually a 2, you have no chance of getting to 3, 4, and eventually 5. And it's so sad because eventually you would have to tell the truth to yourself. Eventually you will arrive at the place where it's going to be miserable and you would know, oh shit, I'm not a 5. And there's like so many imposters right now everywhere you look, especially in our space. And it's not imposter syndrome, it's just straight up imposter.
They're fakes. They're
Yeah.
pretenders. Like you just bought someone's course, and now you're going to go be a life coach on the course. Show me the results that you've gotten for clients. Show me the results you got for clients.
Yeah. And it's hard because so many kids are just, falling for this overnight success like never before. Like they make it sound so easy, and business is hard. I just turned 9 years working for myself, and it's hard. It's not easy. And people need to know that entrepreneurship is not safe. It's not easy. It's brutal. It's gonna,
There are no guarantees, Val. You know that. I mean, no guarantees. There's no consistent paycheck until you get to the point where you know how to do it. But early on, again, I'm like you. I started working for myself in 2003, and I've always worked for myself. Even when I went door to door knocking, I was
right.
1099, like 100% commission.
Yeah.
I don't sell. I don't eat.
Yeah. No, it's hard. And I wanted to ask you, what is a lie that you tell yourself most often?
What is a lie that I tell myself?
Most often, yeah.
Man, that's a great question, huh? I think the lie that I did battle with is I'm doing what's required.
Just
Because
not prioritizing properly, or?
nah, just like in the gym, it's easy.
Mm-hmm.
I know if I'm pushing or not. I know if I'm working like a dog or not. But in business, sometimes I can still convince myself, and I'm like, God, I really didn't put in the best work I could today. And sometimes I'm like, I'm good, I'm good. That's the lie. I'm like, dude, I'm not good. Dude, come on. That's why I love doing the physical work, because in the physical realm, Velko, you know if you're doing, because when you step on a stage for the bodybuilding show, we're all gonna know if you ate the donut or the fries.
Yeah.
But in business, you can cover up a lot with filters and you can hide behind money. It's really only you and God who knows if you're
Yeah.
really putting in the work and the effort.
The most dangerous for me, because I've had so many ups and downs, just limited mindset. I get some money, then I take the credit, which is so dangerous
Yeah.
because you stop doing the work. And this it's a distraction. When you think you're great, I did this, that's when the shit started falling downhill. And eventually you stop doing the work and you think that it's going to be effortless. But what's great is doing the work every day. Anyone can do it if they simply do the work. So just very recently, like in the last year, I really went all in with God, and I want to make God my business partner. And I have a mentor. He's a billionaire, and he's so wise and so close to God. And his direction was, he asked me to read Joshua 1 and give
I
him,
love
yeah, give him like my takeaway. And I was like, well, God is saying be strong and courageous 4 times, so that's definitely getting across. And he also said read the law every day, and kind of use it as food. And what does that mean? And he was like, that's what it means. So my mentor for the past 40 years has been reading the Bible as soon as he wakes up, Psalm and Proverbs, 12 o'clock chapter from the Old Testament, and 6 p.m. chapter of the New Testament. And I started doing that like 8 months ago. And it's such a game changer because every day you're communicating with God, and there's always a test that's relevant to what you read today. Plus, just reading the Psalms, seeing what David is going through, the ups and downs, you're like, man, this is not as bad what I'm going through. And you kind of know what is right and what is wrong. And you're absolutely right. You can't hide from yourself. The results are there, but the results come from the work that we do. So one of the verses that really gets me is when kings went to war, David stayed home. We know what happened then. So, what is your um, self discipline with the Bible or with God? How do you connect with God?
Yep.
What's your
So
relationship with God? And
I'm a
how
praying.
often do you read?
I pray. I pray always. We study the scriptures in our home as a family. We try to do it daily, but schedules, practice,
Yeah,
rehearsal, or probably 3 to 5 times a week. We pray every night as a family. We counsel as a family. We go to church on Sunday. Sometimes we have church during the week for different activities. There's a thing called the temple in my religion. We go to the temple to worship. But not but, I am a very religious and a very spiritual man. Like I know Heavenly Father has blessed me and He's carried me in the darkest and most challenging times. He has been there. My Savior has guided me, just like in the Old Testament, how pillar of fire by night, cloud by day, He led the children of Israel out of Egypt. He has opened the Red Seas for me. One of my favorite stories is two of my favorite stories. Peter walking on the water. He says, Jesus, he's like, they're afraid. And Jesus is like, it's me. And he's like, tell me to come. And Jesus is like, come. And he jumps on the water and he walks on the water. And as long as he was focused on Jesus, the waves could wet his cloak, the wind could move his hair, he could be fine. But the moment he took his eyes off Jesus and started
mm,
out, he starts to sink. And the scripture says, he's like, help me. And Jesus is like, wherefore did you doubt, O ye of little faith? Why did you doubt? That's one of my favorite stories. My other one is man, this one it moves me because I got kids. Is Jairus, right? Jairus in Mark chapter 5, his daughter's at the point of death. And he hears about this Jesus who can heal. He's like, if I can just go talk to Jesus, if he can just come see my daughter, I know she'll be healed. So he makes the trek. They didn't have cell phones, so he goes to find Jesus. Jesus is having the experience with the woman who touched his cloak, and right when he says, "Hey, my daughter's lieth at the point of death," these other men were like, "Hey, your daughter's dead. She's dead. She's gone." So we know she was dead for a while because there was a journey, a time. And I can't imagine, like, if any of my sons were at death and someone was, and I was like, I just got to go get help. And they're like, dude, your son is dead. Jesus looked at him. This is Mark 5:36. And it says, be not afraid, only believe. And that phrase to me, when you're going through business tough times, be not afraid, only believe. When you have sick ones and challenges, be not afraid, only believe. We know the story. He kicks all the singers and deaf people out, and he raises the daughter of Jairus from the dead. And I'm like, man, like, if Jesus could do that for Peter, for the children of Israel, for Daniel in the lion's den, for Shadrach, Meshach, Abednego in the fire, if he could do that for Jairus, if he could do that for the woman with the issue, he could do that for me if I believe and follow his ways. So those are some of my favorite stories. I mean, I love them all. I love all the stories in the Bible, man.
yeah. It just tells us, that all that's required is to have faith, not a lot of faith, but to have consistent faith.
Yep.
And this story with Peter is super moving for me as well, because sometimes we could be riding the wave and literally experience a miracle. We'll be like, this was not me. This was Jesus. And on the next day, we'd be like,
Help! What's
"Wh-
going on?
where are you, God? Why me?" It's ridiculous how, we read the stories about the Red Sea and we're like, oh, how come the Jews are so ungrateful? But this happens to us so much. It happens to us 5 times a year where we would lose faith and we would like, what is going on? Where are you? And it's just a lack of faith. Um, and we become just like them. We forget the monuments, we forget the amazing moments. Like I have powerful testimonies, but what is your favorite thing about yourself?
Ooh,
How did you learn to love yourself the way God loves you? And do you think you've reached that point? Because only then we can love our neighbor the way God loves.
happened in the last several years for me. Like I stopped beating myself up. I stopped guilting and shaming myself. I just thought, oh, I need to be perfect, and I'm not good enough, Lord. And something happened over the last few years with me that I'm like, man, that's the God that I know now. He doesn't want me to walk around in guilt and shame. He wants me
Mhm.
to repent and be happy. And I just love about myself. I know that I'm in charge. Yes, God is in charge of my life, but when He gives us the ability to choose,
Mhm.
I am in charge to make the choices that will bring me the things that I want. And I choose God, and I choose to be happy, and I choose to work through challenges and trials. And I just love, like, I'm an upbeat guy. I'm a happy guy. Like, I love to say hi to people. I love to hug people. I love to high five. I love to make people smile, and it makes me happy.
If you could go back to that moment when you were losing everything in '08, what could you tell yourself if you have the time machine and the
Yeah,
Setema from today has just 5, 10 minutes with the Setema crying in the garage, pulling
yeah. I
his
would.
hairs?
I've thought about this. I'm like, I would go back and I'd say, don't stress, man. This is going to be a tough
He'll be
time.
like, it's easy for you to say that.
Like, it's if I knew back then that I was going to get here, I'd be like, why am I worried? Why am I stressed? Like, just you're going to get your butt kicked. You're going to lose everything. You don't have the skill sets. You don't have the mindsets. You don't have the resources. So go develop it and get through these times and lean on God and let other people help. That's what I would tell myself. And that's what I tell myself now. I'm like, we're going through some challenges with some of our boys, and my wife worries. And I said, we've been here. It's okay. Our boys are good boys. They're going to figure it out. So let's not worry. You can
Yeah.
worry or you can pray. You can worry or we can be optimistic and faithful, but you can't be both. So let's be optimistic and faithful and believing.
It's so important to have a strong woman, strong
Yes.
wife, strong mama.
Yeah.
She's the foundation. So, if you could spend a day just talking to an animal, what animal would you choose to talk to and just learn from? Because I think God created the animals one day before us, because each animal is showing us a different behavior. Some people act like pigs, some people are strong like bulls, some people are smart like, you know, each animal, like you've seen people that literally look like hyenas. They're like hinged over and they have this. So people look like lions sometimes and they act like lions.
Yeah.
So what is the most interesting animal to you? And like if you can speak their language, be like, why do you guys do this? How do you do that? You know how even in Proverbs, God shares a little bit about animals with the locust and all the ones that have no rank and no leader but still show up, um, ants doing the work, squirrels, they have great work ethic, show up every day. What would
That's a question, man. I think the two animals that come to my mind right off the gate um, is the lion and the eagle.
mm,
Like, I think about the lion. I think about the lion and king of the jungle. But even they, if they're surrounded by a herd of, the buffalo, like, they're in trouble. And then I love the eagle because, man, the eagle soars and sees everything, like high above, like can see and glide. So those would be the two animals that come to the top of my mind, like the lion.
what would you want to learn from them though?
So from the eagle, I'd be like, how do you do it? What do you see? Right, because their sight is insane, right? What they can see from a long ways away to hunt their prey. Um, and then I would love to talk to the lion about what's it like to be one of the most feared, but also you got to protect your pride. And from the eagle, sight, vision, and then the lion, like leadership and hunting, and that's what it would be.
This is one of my keynotes is lion mentality, and it's a god moment because one day I was about to do a keynote, and at 3 in the morning I couldn't fall asleep, and I'm watching Discovery Channel, but going really deep on lions. It was like a 4 hour documentary, and all the things that we know about the lion were just crushed. Um, King of the jungle. They don't even live in the jungle. And 85% of the lions, the little cubs, they die because they're eaten by their daddy. So they're cannibals. Nobody talks about that. He's got to deal with 6 girls that are going to go out hunt for him. He then eats the liver, the heart, the muscles. He eats the good stuff, throws them the skin, throws them the bones. Then they eat that, and the little cubs, if they can steal a little bit of food, they have a chance of survival and eventually becoming a king. The other ones are going to be food, because if animals don't get lost in their parameter, they're not really hunters. So the king actually is not a good hunter. He would lose 8 times out of 10.
The lioness.
Yeah. I mean, when it comes down to it, he is fearless for sure. There's a lot of ego, but you would never sacrifice your kids or send your wife to work. There's just some things that don't fit. We glorify the lion, but some things don't fit with our values. Because I was like, oh, I want to be like the lions. And then after I watched this Discovery documentary, I was like, no, I don't want to be like the lions. I actually compare them a lot to pimps and prostitutes, because the prostitutes are usually drug addicts. So the pimp is like a glorified drug dealer. He gives them the cocaine, they give him the money. The lion, the king, has to sleep with these 6 girls 30, 40 times a day. And they would set him up. Once when he stops delivering on the sexual part and they see a new potential prospect, they would set up the old man, and the new guy is going to kill him. They would kind of help him out.
Yep.
So the lack of loyalty really bothers me. Plus, he would eat his own brother. There's no
Well, it's
eagles.
great. I don't even like, we're humans with our own values. If we had to go be lions, I think we would behave like lions.
We probably would. And there are some humans that already behave like lions.
Yep.
There are some humans that do already. That's why I compare them to pimps and prostitutes. But because pimps are not the best gangsters, they have these long nails. They're not like comparing to a hardcore gangbanger. They're not gonna be
Yep.
so great. And they make their women do the work. So that's upsetting. And that roar the lion has, it's not a glorious roar. It's a roar of desperation. You know how sometimes people, when they have emotional breakdown, they're careless, they would like scream and break stuff, and to some people it seems like, wow, this guy's dangerous person. Well, he's dangerous because he's irresponsible, because he's reckless, not because he's really strong. You can still handle him if you're stronger. um, But eagles, you mentioned eagles, they're just so much more respectable. Like they're so united. There's something, a season they go through where they lose their flares. Is that what it's called? I forgot. They lose their cover, and they serve them. It's such a beautiful act. Like they're so united. I forget what it's called, but they go through a season, and I think they're the strongest
They're amazing. No question.
birds. There is something to learn from lions. So, what question would you ask the king lion? You mentioned something like, how do you manage?
Yeah, it'd probably just be like, what goes through your head? Because we know the dynamics of what it means to be a leader. And it's like when I meet a guy that's atop the I mean, I used to do this a lot when I was younger. Not as much anymore because you interview enough multimillionaires, billionaires, Super Bowl champions. Like it's all the same, right? There's a
Family.
what's that?
What I got collectively is like family relationships. That's what matters the most.
Like they're always like work hard, stay focused, and don't give up your family. Because if you give up your family, all this stuff doesn't matter.
Right. So you get the same takeaway from all the
Like
interviews.
you interview enough guys and you read enough books at our age, it's like now it's just time to go execute.
Yeah.
It's time to go execute. And sometimes you got to be reminded. But you listen to a podcast enough podcasts, read enough books, go to enough seminars, read enough. Like obviously, we need the reminders, but take care of your family. Right? Don't sacrifice the family for riches. Be honest and kind. Be straightforward. Be trustworthy. And then, like to me, it's make time for the things and people that matter most.
Yeah.
Don't get lured into the traps of the world because they will seduce you to think that you want this when you really don't.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So in my keynote, I'm like, I want you to roar like a lion. I want you to give it to me like roar as loud as you can. And the whole room roars, roar, roar, roar. And then I'm like, how many of you want this type of lifestyle? But the point I'm trying to make always is that they're very transactional. They eat, then life is good for an hour or two, then they don't eat for 2 3 days, and they become this. "Rah."
and that's another thing. Like with us, like I don't. My business, probably like yours, is not a transactional business.
No,
It is a living, breathing, heart to heart type of business, right? I get it. Walmart's going to be transactional, sell as many things for as cheap as possible. But the type of business that we run inside of coaching, speaking, training, changing lives, far from transactional. It is heart and soul, creating value, making a difference.
yeah, it's very emotional. It's relational. So many people in sales, and I'm sure when you were doing mortgages and real estate, are transactional. They're all about the money,
Yeah,
and they remind me of that lion's mentality. Eat what you kill, take a break, go drink. And a lot of times it leads to searching for artificial love because it's so stressful to be hero to zero every month,
yeah,
or chasing that high of the next deal versus working on passive income or monthly recurring revenue, or building a community that is there because they choose you, not because you close them. Finding your tribe. It's so much more rewarding because lions, they're powerful. They could probably outsmart the buffaloes and somehow control them, but they're not thinking that far ahead.
wow. And that's the beautiful thing about being human, Bucko. We have amazing brains where we can coordinate, lead, um, plan. Right? There's such a different way of thinking. I've got like 4 minutes before my next call coming
No
in.
worries. So in closing, give us your honest projection of 2024. What do you think is going to happen? uh, Knowing a little bit about the market, do you think that we're going to have economical crisis? Do you think that there's going to be something even bigger? What is your projection if you have to bet?
Yep. I'm gonna. You read a lot of things out there. You see a lot of gloom and doom. You see the guys who are like, "Get your homes ready, man. We're in for a ride." I don't worry about those things because if I take care of myself, take care of my family, innovate. Doesn't matter what business, I got to innovate. Business is providing solutions to people, creating value for people. So I don't worry too much. I'm sure it's going to get pretty wild and crazy, but I live here in Vegas. I was here during the Super Bowl. If I didn't know the Super Bowl was taking place in Vegas, I would not have known the Super Bowl was here in Vegas. Like, if you're watching social media and TV and the political channels, you're going to get freaked out. I don't watch those anymore. I focus on my internal economy, which is
Hmm.
this, and whatever happens out there is going to. I can't control the feds. I cannot do anything about that. So I focus on controlling what I can control, which is my mindset, my daily high value targets of execution, the goals, how I show up under fire, how I show up under stress, and how I lead my company and take care of our clients. And if I can do that and be smart with my money, right? Live on less than I earn, put my money out to, diversify and have my money make money, and then show up as a great dad and great father. Like, shoot, I ain't worried about it. I'm just not. Like, there's always been chaos and craziness, but if you start to watch and listen to it, it affects you. And I don't do that.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, that's a great advice. I couldn't agree more. I was hoping you would say something like that. It gives us hope. Much love and respect for you, brother. God bless you.
Thank you,
Uh,
Val. Such an
next,
honor. Thank you so much.
I'll be in Vegas soon in the next couple months, so I'll hit you up. Maybe we'll grab
Hit me up,
coffee.
man. Thank you, brother. Love you, man.
Love you too, brother. God bless you.